But Florence, a city of breathtaking art and shadowy power, once held a secret wilder than any Renaissance painting. Beneath the opulent ceilings and within the grand palaces of the Medici family, creatures from distant lands roamed or resided in specially built enclosures. These were not just pets, they were living symbols of wealth, influence, and a fierce, untamed curiosity. Get ready to uncover the astonishing, sometimes tragic, and always magnificent lives of the most exotic animals the Medici ever kept. Number 9. The Prickly Porcupine. The Medici Menagerie was not only about massive beasts from distant continents. Sometimes the truly intriguing animals came from closer to home, yet still carried an air of mystery and wonder. The porcupine, particularly the larger varieties, found in parts of Africa and Asia, made an appearance in Medici collections, drawing stares and whispers from all who saw its peculiar defense. These spiky creatures were a testament to the family's broad interest in the natural world, extending beyond the headline-grabbing lions and elephants to include creatures that were simply unusual. Records from the Medici court accounts sometimes mention the acquisition of porcupines brought in from North Africa or the Near East through established trade routes. These were not the smaller European hedgehogs, but rather the larger crested porcupines with their impressive array of quills. The journey for a porcupine was less arduous than for a giraffe or an elephant, but it still required careful handling. They were typically transported in sturdy wooden crates, often alongside other smaller, more manageable exotic animals. The journey across the Mediterranean Sea could be long, with the creatures experiencing the rocking of ships and the changing temperatures of various ports. Keepers had to ensure a steady supply of fruits, roots, and bark, their natural diet, to keep them healthy during the weeks of travel. Upon arrival in Florence, the porcupines would find a home in various dedicated enclosures within the Medici properties. The San Marco Garden, a site of early Medici natural history pursuits, likely housed some of these smaller but no less captivating animals. Later, as the collections expanded, porcupines might have been found at the Boboli Gardens or at one of the Medici villas, where specific sections were sometimes allocated for more curious zoological specimens. Their enclosures needed solid walls, as porcupines are known for their digging abilities, and a secure roof to prevent escapes. They were provided with plenty of space to forage and root around, mimicking their natural behaviors. The daily life of a Medici porcupine was quite different from its wild counterparts. Instead of searching for food in the vast wilderness, meals were provided regularly by dedicated keepers. These diets consisted of a variety of vegetables, grains, and occasionally some insects or small pieces of meat, a more varied fare than they might find in the wild. The visitors to the menagerie would approach their enclosures with a mixture of awe and caution. The sight of a porcupine raising its quills in defense, perhaps at a loud noise or a sudden movement, was a fascinating spectacle. It demonstrated the creature's unique protective mechanism, a living lesson in natural adaptation. Children, in particular, found the porcupine endlessly interesting, often kept at a respectful distance by their parents due to the quills. The porcupine, despite its smaller stature compared to the large mammals, held its own significance for the Medici. It was a creature that evoked curiosity and discussion, reflecting the Renaissance fascination with peculiar natural phenomena. Artists and naturalists of the era often sought to observe and document these animals. While not as grand as a lion, the porcupine's distinct appearance and defensive display made it a subject worthy of study. Its quills, sharp and formidable, were sometimes admired as natural wonders. Its presence in the collection subtly underscored the Medici's ability to acquire unusual specimens from far-flung regions, even if those regions were not as distant as the deserts of Africa. The porcupines lived for several years within the Medici menageries, becoming accustomed to their human caretakers and the routines of their daily lives. They would often be seen shuffling through their enclosures, sniffing the ground for food, or simply resting in a quiet corner. Their relatively long lifespan compared to some of the more delicate exotic animals meant they were a more consistent presence in the collection. Their passing, when it occurred, was often due to natural causes or the limitations of veterinary care in the Renaissance era. The porcupine, with its quiet strength and unique defense, contributed to the tapestry of wonders that made the Medici menageries truly extraordinary, a testament to their desire to gather all forms of life, both grand and subtly fascinating. Number 8. The agile leopard. Among the fearsome cats that stalked the imagination of Renaissance Europe, the leopard held a special place. Its spotted coat and lithoform spoke of wild lands and powerful predatory instincts. The Medici, always keen to acquire symbols of power and exotic beauty, brought leopards into their growing collection of animals, showcasing their mastery over the natural world and their expansive reach across trade networks. These creatures, often arriving from North Africa or the Near East, were living, breathing displays of both danger and grace. The acquisition of a leopard was a complex affair. They were often captured as cubs in their native habitats, a risky undertaking for the hunters involved. From there, they would embark on a long journey, usually by sea, towards Italy. The conditions on these voyages were challenging. Leopard cubs, while less dangerous than adults, still required constant supervision and feeding. They were kept in strong, enclosed crates, often with thick iron bars, to ensure both their safety and the safety of the crew. The journey could last for weeks, with the animals enduring the confinement and the unfamiliar sounds and smells of a ship. Stops at various ports along the Mediterranean allowed for fresh provisions, and a brief respite from the sea air before the final leg of the trip to Livorno, Florence's port. Once in Florence, the leopards were housed in purpose-built enclosures designed to contain such powerful creatures. The Medici maintained a number of sites for their larger animals, including sections of the Boboli Gardens and specialized structures within the Palazzo Pitti complex. The leopard enclosures were typically robust, featuring high walls and secure gates made of heavy timber or stone. They often included an inner chamber for sleeping and protection from the elements, as well as an outdoor area where the animals could move and exercise. These spaces were carefully constructed to prevent escapes, a constant concern with animals of this nature. The air around these enclosures carried the distinct scent of wild animals, a powerful reminder of their exotic origins. The daily routine for a Medici leopard revolved around feeding and observation. Keepers, often experienced in handling dangerous animals, would deliver cuts of meat, typically beef or horse, which formed the bulk of their diet. The feeding times were often a spectacle in themselves, as the leopard's natural predatory instincts would surface, a flash of speed and power as it claimed its meal. Visitors, including high-ranking Florentine citizens and foreign dignitaries, would be brought to observe these creatures from a safe distance, marveling at their sleek movements and piercing gaze. The leopard's presence added a thrilling element of danger and excitement to the menagerie, a stark contrast to the more docile inhabitants. The leopard's image resonated deeply with the Medici's ambitions. Its strength, stealth, and exotic beauty were powerful symbols of their own dominion. They sought to project an image of power that extended beyond the borders of Tuscany, and possessing such a rare and dangerous animal reinforced this perception. The artists of the era, captivated by the leopard's striking patterns and elegant form, would often sketch or paint these animals, seeking to capture their essence. These artistic representations, sometimes incorporated into tapestries or decorative motifs, further disseminated the image of the Medici as rulers of both men and beasts. The leopard, like the lion, served as a living emblem, a testament to the Medici's global reach and their ability to command respect. Despite the best efforts of their keepers, the lifespan of leopards in captivity during the Renaissance was often shorter than in their natural habitat. The limited understanding of veterinary science, coupled with the stresses of confinement and an alien diet, sometimes led to illness. When a leopard died, it was a significant event, often recorded in the court records. Its passing meant the loss of a valuable and impressive asset, necessitating the search for another animal to maintain the symbolic collection. The presence of the leopard, however fleeting its life in Florence, left a lasting impression on those who witnessed it. It was a creature of fierce beauty, a living reminder of the vast and wondrous world beyond the confines of the city, brought to heel by the powerful Medici. Number 7, the mighty bear. The bears, both indigenous to Europe and imported from more distant lands, were a common yet always impressive sight in royal and noble menageries across the continent. The Medici, with their passion for collecting all manner of creatures, certainly included bears in their extensive animal parks. These powerful animals, known for their strength and sometimes their surprising intelligence, added a rugged, wild element to the refined Florentine court, serving as both a spectacle and a symbol of untamed nature brought under human control. Some bears in the Medici collection might have been European brown bears acquired from the wilder, mountainous regions of Italy or beyond. However, accounts suggest that some of the bears were brought from even further east, perhaps from Russia or the Near East, adding to their exotic appeal. The transportation of a bear, especially a mature one, was a challenging feat. They were incredibly strong and could be unpredictable. Specialized cages, constructed from thick wooden beams and reinforced with iron, were essential for their journey. These cages were often transported on carts pulled by multiple oxen, a slow and cumbersome process across the often rough terrain of Renaissance Europe. The journey could take many weeks or even months, requiring constant attention from keepers to ensure the bear was fed, watered, and did not manage to break free from its confinement. Upon their arrival in Florence, the bears were typically housed in strong, secure enclosures. The Medici had various sites for their animals, including the gardens of the Palazzo Pitti and the more extensive grounds of their rural villas like Pratolino. Bear enclosures were designed to be robust, often featuring deep moats or high, thick stone walls to prevent escapes. They usually included a sturdy den or shelter for the bear to retreat into, particularly during the colder months or for privacy. The outdoor areas provided space for the bears to move, climb, and sometimes even a pool or water feature for them to bathe in, especially during the hot Tuscan summers. The distinct growls and roars of the bears would sometimes echo through the gardens, a powerful reminder of the wild beasts within. The daily life of a Medici bear involved a diet of various foods, reflecting their omnivorous nature. Keepers would provide them with a mix of fruits, vegetables, grains, honey, and occasionally meat or fish. Feeding time was often a popular spectacle, as the bears would display their strength and their enthusiasm for their meals. Some bears, particularly those raised from cubs, might have been relatively tame and accustomed to their keepers, allowing for closer interaction. However, all interactions were undertaken with extreme caution, as the bear's raw power was never forgotten. The public, always eager for a glimpse of the exotic, would gather to watch the bears, fascinated by their lumbering gait and their sometimes playful, sometimes menacing demeanor. The bear, with its raw power and imposing presence, served as a potent symbol for the Medici. It represented untamed nature, yet its confinement within the Medici menagerie spoke volumes about the family's ability to exert control over even the most formidable creatures. In heraldry, bears often symbolized strength and ferocity. For the Medici, possessing bears reinforced their image as powerful rulers who could command respect from all corners of the world, even the wild forests. Artists of the Renaissance, always on the lookout for new and interesting subjects, would sometimes sketch or paint these bears, capturing their fur, their postures, and their powerful forms, adding to the visual record of the Medici zoological collection. The lifespan of bears in Medici captivity varied. Some might have lived for many years, becoming a familiar presence in the menagerie, while others might have succumbed to illness or the stresses of confinement. The records might sometimes mention specific incidents, such as a bear attempting an escape, or a particularly impressive display of strength during feeding. The bear's presence in the Medici menagerie was a testament to the family's expansive tastes and their desire to accumulate living wonders from both near and far. It was a creature that evoked both awe and a healthy respect for its power, a living reminder of the untamed world beyond the city walls, brought within reach by the Medici. Number 6, the entertaining monkey. Among the smaller, yet endlessly captivating inhabitants of the Medici menageries were a variety of monkeys. These intelligent and often mischievous creatures brought from different parts of the world provided endless entertainment and fascination for the Medici family and their many guests. From the Barbary macaques of North Africa to the various species of guanons and even more exotic types from further east, monkeys were a constant presence, adding a lively, playful, and sometimes chaotic element to the opulent Renaissance court. The acquisition of monkeys was a relatively common practice for European nobles, but the Medici, as always, aimed for a diverse and impressive collection. Monkeys were sourced from various trade routes, arriving from North Africa, the Middle East, and sometimes even further afield through extensive trading networks. Their journey to Florence was less arduous than for the massive animals, but it still required careful management. They were typically transported in sturdy cages, often in groups, to keep them company. Keepers on board ships had to ensure a steady supply of fruits, nuts, and vegetables, their primary diet, and protect them from the elements. The monkeys often adapted relatively well to the confinement, their agile nature, allowing them to move within their cages, while their curiosity made them observe their human companions. Once in Florence, the monkeys were housed in various locations across the Medici properties. The Boboli Gardens, with its grottos and whimsical structures, often featured dedicated areas for smaller animals, including monkeys. Some might have even been kept within the Medici palaces themselves in specially designed secure rooms or aviaries for closer observation and amusement. Their enclosures were designed to accommodate their active nature, often featuring branches, ropes, and platforms for climbing and swinging. Security was a concern, as monkeys are adept at escaping, so robust bars and high walls were essential. The chattering, squealing, and playful antics of the monkeys added a constant background of sound to the more tranquil areas of the Medici residences. The daily life of a Medici monkey was one of relative comfort and endless amusement. Keepers provided them with a rich diet of fresh fruits, nuts, seeds, and occasionally insects or small cooked meats. The monkeys, with their nimble fingers, would expertly peel and consume their meals, often squabbling playfully over favored morsels. Visitors found their intelligence and human-like movements endlessly fascinating. They would watch the monkeys groom each other, play games, and sometimes even mimic the gestures of their human observers. Children of the Medici family were often particularly fond of the monkeys, sometimes even being allowed to interact with the tamer individuals under strict supervision. The monkeys provided a form of living entertainment, a break from the formal solemnity of court life. Monkeys held a complex symbolic meaning in the Renaissance. They were often seen as creatures that mimicked human behavior, sometimes for comic effect, and sometimes as a reflection on human folly. For the Medici, possessing a diverse collection of monkeys was another way to demonstrate their wealth and their ability to acquire curiosities from across the globe. They represented the family's broad interest in the natural world, from the majestic to the amusing. The artists of the era often included monkeys in their works, sometimes as symbols of mischief or vanity, but also as delightful subjects in their own right, capturing their expressive faces and agile bodies. The monkeys were living examples of nature's playful side, brought directly into the heart of Florentine society. The lifespan of monkeys in captivity during the Renaissance varied depending on the species and the quality of care. Some might have lived for many years, becoming beloved members of the menagerie, while others succumbed to the change in diet or climate. Stories of individual monkeys, their specific antics, or their unique personalities would sometimes be passed down through the court. Their presence added a vibrant and dynamic element to the Medici's zoological collection, a constant source of wonder and lightheartedness. The entertaining monkey, with its boundless energy and human-like charm, was a small but significant part of the grand tapestry of living wonders that adorned the Medici court. Number 5. The enduring camel. While not as immediately striking as a giraffe or as fearsome as a lion, the camel held significant practical and symbolic value for the Medici. These hardy, resilient creatures, usually dromedaries from North Africa or the Middle East, were more than just exotic pets. They were living links to the vast trade networks that fueled much of the Medici's wealth and influence. Their presence in the Florentine menagerie underscored the family's mastery over commerce and their connections to distant, arid lands. Camels were acquired through established trade routes that brought goods from the Levant and North Africa into Italian ports. Often, they were part of a larger consignment of exotic animals or valuable commodities. The journey for a camel was arduous, but they were well suited for long-distance travel. They would often walk for weeks or months across deserts and then be loaded onto ships for the sea voyage across the Mediterranean. On board, they required significant space and a steady supply of hay, grain, and water. Their docile nature, when well treated, made them easier to handle than some of the more volatile exotic animals. Keepers had to ensure they were protected from severe weather and injuries during the sometimes rough sea crossings. Upon arrival in Florence, the camels were housed in spacious stables, often alongside the horses and other draft animals, but in a dedicated section that accommodated their larger size and unique needs. The Medici maintained extensive stable complexes at various locations, including the Palazzo Pitti and their rural villas. Camel stables needed high ceilings to accommodate their towering height and strong, well-ventilated stalls. They were provided with dry, sandy bedding reflecting their natural habitat and large feeding troughs. The distinctive low grunts and the rustle of their long legs could be heard from their enclosures, a sound quite distinct from the neighing of horses. The daily life of a Medici camel revolved around a diet of hay, grain, and various vegetables, supplemented with water. Unlike some of the other exotic animals, camels were not purely for show. They were sometimes used for practical purposes, such as carrying loads within the Medici estates or participating in ceremonial parades. Their placid temperament made them suitable for such public appearances, and their unique appearance always drew attention. During festivities or important diplomatic events, camels would be adorned with rich fabrics and sometimes jewels, paraded through the streets of Florence, creating a stir among the populace. This showcased the Medici's ability to command creatures from distant lands, transforming them into symbols of their own grandeur. The camel carried significant symbolic weight for the Medici. It represented commerce, endurance, and the family's profound reach into the distant lands of the East. Their ability to acquire and maintain such animals reinforced their image as powerful merchants and rulers who commanded respect and trade from across the known world. In a city built on commerce, the camel was a tangible link to the wealth that flowed into Florence. Artists, while perhaps not as captivated by the camel's form as by a lion or giraffe, would sometimes depict them in processional scenes or as part of larger exotic tableaux, capturing their stoic dignity. The camel was a quiet but constant reminder of the vast commercial empire that underpinned the Medici's power. The lifespan of camels in Medici captivity could be quite long, as they are naturally hardy animals. They were generally well cared for given their practical and symbolic value. Their deaths, when they occurred, were often due to old age or common ailments. The enduring camel, with its steadfast presence and subtle symbolism, was an integral part of the Medici menagerie, a living testament to the family's commercial prowess and their ability to bring the world's wonders to the heart of Tuscany, transforming utility into a display of magnificent power. Number 4, the towering ostrich. Among the more unusual and surprisingly captivating residents of the Medici menageries were the ostriches. These massive, flightless birds, native to the African deserts, presented a striking spectacle with their long necks, powerful legs, and plumes of feathers. Their presence in Florence was a testament to the Medici's wide-ranging network of contacts and their desire to collect creatures that defied common expectation, showcasing a natural world full of astonishing diversity. Ostriches were acquired through established trade routes that linked Florence to North Africa and the Middle East. They were often brought by sea from Egyptian or North African ports, sometimes as part of larger shipments of exotic animals or luxury goods. The journey for an ostrich, while not as complex as for an elephant, still posed significant challenges. They were powerful birds, capable of delivering a dangerous kick, and required sturdy enclosures to prevent escape or injury during transit. Keepers had to ensure a steady supply of grain, plants, and sometimes insects, their natural diet, to sustain them during the weeks-long voyage. Their unique appearance and sometimes nervous disposition made them a constant point of interest even on board ships. Upon arrival in Florence, the ostriches were typically housed in spacious, open-air enclosures within the Medici gardens. The Boboli Gardens, known for its extensive landscaping and diverse collections, was a likely home for these impressive birds. Their enclosures needed to be large enough to accommodate their size and allow them to run, and the fences had to be high and strong enough to contain them. Sometimes specialized courtyards or sections of the Medici villas were adapted for their needs. The sight of an ostrich striding across a manicured lawn, its long neck craning, was a truly remarkable one in Renaissance Florence, drawing gasps of surprise from onlookers. The daily life of a Medici ostrich involved regular feeding by dedicated keepers. They were given a diet rich in grains, vegetables, and occasional supplements. Ostriches are known for their curious habit of swallowing small stones or objects to aid digestion, and keepers had to be mindful of this, ensuring their enclosures were free of anything harmful. Visitors, including court members and foreign dignitaries, would often gather to watch the ostriches. Their sometimes erratic movements, powerful legs, and surprisingly delicate pecking motions captivated audiences. The birds' plumes were particularly admired, sometimes even collected after molting for use in fashion or decoration, a testament to their beauty and exotic appeal. The ostrich, with its unique form and origins from distant desert lands, held a particular symbolic value for the Medici. It represented the exotic, the unusual, and the far-reaching influence of the family's network. Its presence demonstrated the Medici's ability to acquire wonders from beyond the European sphere, extending their prestige and curiosity. In a society that valued knowledge and the collection of rare objects, a living ostrich was a priceless addition. Artists of the Renaissance, always eager to depict the natural world, would often sketch or paint these unusual birds, seeking to capture their elegant yet awkward posture and their distinctive feathers, adding to the visual record of the Medici's remarkable collection. The lifespan of ostriches in Medici captivity varied. They were often quite resilient, but the climate of Florence and the limitations of Renaissance animal husbandry could pose challenges. When an ostrich died, its passing was noted, and often efforts would be made to acquire another to maintain the collection. The towering ostrich, a creature of both beauty and raw power, was a living spectacle that contributed to the Medici's image as patrons of the arts, sciences, and collectors of the world's most astonishing living treasures, bringing a piece of the African plains to the heart of Tuscany. Number 3. The majestic lion. No royal or princely menagerie in Renaissance Europe was complete without the king of beasts, the lion. For the Medici, acquiring and maintaining lions was a profound statement of power, courage, and dominion. These magnificent predators, typically imported from North Africa or the Near East, were living, roaring emblems of authority, inspiring both awe and fear in the heart of Florence. Their presence underscored the Medici's ambition and their ability to command the wild, much like they commanded their city. The acquisition of a lion was a complex and costly undertaking. Lions, often captured as cubs, were transported across vast distances. The journey from their native lands to Italy involved long sea voyages, with the cubs housed in strong, reinforced cages to prevent escape and to protect the crew. On board, keepers had to ensure a constant supply of meat and water and manage the growing cubs as they matured. The roar of a young lion echoing through the ship was a potent reminder of the dangerous cargo. Upon disembarking at Livorno, the lions would be transferred to sturdy wheeled cages and transported overland to Florence, a journey that itself was a spectacle, drawing crowds in every town they passed. Once in Florence, the lions were housed in specially constructed, formidable enclosures. The Medici had dedicated lion houses, often located near the Palazzo Vecchio or within the expansive gardens of the Palazzo Pitti. These enclosures were built with heavy stone walls, deep moats, and thick iron bars to ensure the safety of the public and the containment of the powerful beasts. Each lion typically had its own large den for sleeping and protection from the elements, as well as an outdoor exercise yard. The air around the lion house carried the distinct, musky scent of wild animals, and the deep, resonant roars of the lions could sometimes be heard throughout the city, particularly at dawn or dusk, serving as an auditory reminder of the Medici's powerful collection. The daily life of a Medici lion revolved around its feeding. Keepers, often experienced in handling dangerous animals, would provide large quantities of meat, typically horse or beef, several times a week. The feeding times were a prime attraction, drawing crowds eager to witness the raw power of the lions as they tore into their meals. While some lions, particularly those raised from cubs, might have shown a degree of familiarity with their keepers, caution was always paramount. The lions were sometimes displayed to foreign dignitaries and important visitors, their formidable presence a testament to the Medici's power and exotic possessions. They were sometimes even used in public spectacles, though records of these are less common as the focus shifted from bloody displays to more controlled exhibitions. The lion, as a long-standing symbol of royalty, courage, and ferocity, was deeply significant for the Medici. Possessing such a creature reinforced their image as powerful rulers akin to ancient emperors. The lion's strength and majesty were metaphors for the family's own dominion over Florence and Tuscany. It was a living embodiment of their authority and their ability to acquire the most prestigious and dangerous animals from across the globe. Artists of the Renaissance, including renowned sculptors and painters, were fascinated by these magnificent animals. They would often sketch and study the lions, incorporating their powerful forms into art, architecture, and even heraldic designs, further solidifying the lion's association with Medici power. The lifespan of lions in Medici captivity varied. Some might have lived for many years, while others succumbed to illness or the stresses of confinement, as veterinary medicine was rudimentary. When a lion died, it was a notable event, often recorded in court records. The death of a particularly impressive lion would lead to efforts to acquire another, maintaining the prestige of the menagerie. The majestic lion, with its commanding presence and symbolic weight, was one of the most iconic creatures in the Medici collection, a roaring testament to their wealth, power, and their unquenchable thirst for the grand and the exotic. Number 2. The enigmatic elephant. Few animals commanded as much awe and wonder in Renaissance Europe as the elephant. Its sheer size, intelligence, and exotic origins made it a living marvel, a symbol of royal magnificence and far-reaching influence. For the Medici, acquiring an elephant was a monumental achievement, a display of wealth and global connections that few other European rulers could match. The presence of an elephant in Florence was an event of immense public fascination, a living legend brought to life. Elephants were exceedingly difficult to acquire and transport. They typically came from India or Africa, traveling across vast distances by land and then embarking on perilous sea voyages. These journeys could take months, even years. The elephant would be led on foot through various territories, accompanied by numerous handlers and requiring enormous amounts of food and water daily. On ships, special sturdy ramps and reinforced decks were needed to accommodate their weight. The immense logistical challenge of transporting an elephant meant that only the wealthiest and most powerful rulers could even contemplate such an acquisition. The Medici elephant, a gift from a distant ruler or acquired through complex diplomatic negotiations, arrived as a symbol of unprecedented prestige. Upon its arrival in Florence, the elephant was met with widespread astonishment. Its sheer size and alien appearance created an unforgettable spectacle. It was housed in specially constructed massive enclosures that dwarfed those of other animals. The Medici likely had their elephant at their grand ducal residence, possibly within the expansive grounds of the Boboli Gardens, or a dedicated structure within the Palazzo Pitti. These enclosures needed exceptionally strong walls, a very large amount of space for the elephant to move, and a water source for bathing and drinking. The elephant's gentle swaying movements and the flapping of its large ears were often observed from a respectful distance by crowds of curious Florentines. The daily life of a Medici elephant was centered around its immense dietary needs and the careful attention of its dedicated keepers. An elephant consumes hundreds of pounds of food daily, including hay, grains, fruits, and vegetables, all of which had to be sourced and delivered consistently. The keepers, often experienced in handling these colossal animals, would guide the elephant, bathe it, and ensure its well-being. The elephant's intelligence meant it could be trained to perform simple tasks or tricks, further enhancing its appeal as a spectacle. Public viewing of the elephant was a major event, drawing people from all walks of life, eager to witness this incredible creature from a faraway land. It was sometimes adorned for grand processions through the city, drawing massive crowds and serving as a living centerpiece of Medici splendor. The elephant carried profound symbolic weight for the Medici. It represented imperial power, wisdom, and the ability to command the most formidable creatures of the natural world. In ancient times, elephants were associated with triumph and royalty. For the Medici, possessing an elephant solidified their image as a family of unparalleled wealth, influence, and global connections. It was a living testament to their diplomatic prowess, capable of receiving such a magnificent gift from a distant potentate. Artists of the Renaissance, captivated by the elephant's unique form, would sketch and paint it, sometimes incorporating it into grand historical or allegorical scenes, ensuring its memory lived on in art. The elephant became a celebrated icon of the Medici's dominion. The lifespan of elephants in Renaissance captivity was often shorter than in their natural habitat, given the challenges of diet, climate, and veterinary care. Records would detail the elephant's arrival, its routines, and eventually its passing. The death of such a rare and valuable animal was a significant loss, but its memory and the stories surrounding it would endure. The enigmatic elephant, a creature of immense power and gentle demeanor, was perhaps the most impressive living possession in the Medici menagerie, a constant source of wonder and a resounding declaration of the family's magnificent power and reach. Number 1. The legendary giraffe. Of all the astonishing creatures brought to Florence by the Medici, none captured the imagination quite like the giraffe. Its impossible height, spotted coat, and gentle demeanor made it a living legend, a creature almost mythical in its strangeness and beauty. The giraffe, a gift from the Sultan of Egypt to Lorenzo the Magnificent in 1487, was not merely an exotic animal. It was a diplomatic triumph and a symbol of unparalleled prestige, transforming Florence into a city of wonder. The journey of the giraffe to Florence was an epic undertaking fraught with challenges. It began in the distant lands of Africa, then embarked on a long sea voyage across the Mediterranean. The giraffe, named Giraffa by the Florentines, traveled from Cairo to Rome, where it received a blessing from the Pope, a testament to its significant status. From Rome, it continued overland to Florence, a journey that captivated the Italian populace along the entire route. Specialized stable hands and caretakers accompanied the creature, ensuring its welfare. Its tall neck sometimes caused difficulties, getting caught on low-hanging branches or gates, requiring constant vigilance. The diet of the giraffe, consisting of leaves, fruits, and grains, had to be carefully managed throughout the weeks of travel. Upon its dramatic arrival in Florence, the giraffe was met with an explosion of excitement. It was the first living giraffe many Europeans had ever seen. Lorenzo the Magnificent, known for his refined tastes and keen interest in the arts and sciences, commissioned a special stable to be built for it near the Medici Palace on Via Larga. This stable was designed with an exceptionally high roof to accommodate the giraffe's towering height, and it was reportedly heated in winter to protect the creature from the Florentine cold, a testament to the expense and care bestowed upon it. The giraffe was able to wander in a specially constructed enclosure, occasionally peering out of high windows, much to the delight of curious onlookers. The daily life of Lorenzo's giraffe was one of careful attention. Keepers provided it with a steady supply of fresh leaves, branches, fruits, and grain. Its gentle nature allowed for relatively close interaction with its caretakers, and Lorenzo himself was said to have a deep affection for the animal. Stories circulated of the giraffe, reaching its long neck into high windows, nibbling fruit from baskets, or interacting playfully with its keepers. The giraffe became a constant source of fascination for the Florentine elite and common people alike. Ambassadors and foreign dignitaries visiting the Medici court were invariably taken to see the giraffe, its presence serving as a powerful demonstration of Lorenzo's far-reaching influence and his ability to acquire such an extraordinary living treasure. The giraffe, more than any other animal, symbolized Lorenzo the Magnificent's enlightened rule and his cultural sophistication. It was a living embodiment of the Renaissance spirit of discovery and the desire to bring the wonders of the world to Florence. Its unique appearance inspired artists who meticulously sketched and painted it, capturing its elegant form and distinctive markings. These artistic depictions, some of the earliest accurate representations of a giraffe in European art, spread its image far beyond Florence, further solidifying Lorenzo's reputation as a patron of unparalleled vision. The giraffe was not just a pet, it was a diplomatic coup, a scientific marvel, and a piece of living art. Despite the lavish care, the giraffe's life in Florence was tragically short, lasting only about 2 years. The European climate, the unfamiliar diet, or perhaps simply the stress of captivity likely contributed to its early demise. Its death was a significant loss, deeply felt by Lorenzo and the entire city. However, the legend of Lorenzo's giraffe endured. Its memory lived on in the art it inspired, the stories told about its gentle nature, and the sense of wonder it brought to Florence. The legendary giraffe remains one of the most iconic creatures of the Medici Menageries, a testament to an era when power, curiosity, and the pursuit of the exotic converged in the heart of the Renaissance.